Welcome in, everybody. This is NSD Undead. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. We are going to go through all the Alice in Wonderland champions and see if they're good or not. We're going to go through all the kits and give you my first impressions. So let's start out with Sacred Order. We got Alice in this one. So this is the 7-day login. Pretty cool skin. Has a drink me flasks and nice big sword. Look at the bunny, guys. I mean, we all know Raid does good with their champion designs. Pretty cool. Okay. A1, attack one enemy 2 times, places an extra hit if the target has any active skills on cooldown. Each has an 80% chance to decreasing the duration of a random buff on the target by 1 turn. Seems alright. Attack all enemies has a 75% chance of increasing the cooldown, which books to 100% for 2 turns, so kind of like Basher. Also has a 75% chance of decreasing each target's turn meter by 15% if at least one of the target's skills has its cooldown increased to the max, decreasing their turn meter by 30% instead. It's cool that everybody's getting a cooldown reduction for free, and depending on how hard it hits, it could be really cool. Kind of like an Alika move right there. Attack at one enemies will ignore 20% of the target's defense. That's always nice. And if the target is killed, also attacks the enemy with the lowest HP, will also ignore 20% of the defense. So this could be a one-shot for 2 champions. We just got to know the multipliers so far. And might be a good champion. Whenever this champion attacks, inflicts 3% bonus damage to each target for each turn remaining on all of their skill cooldowns. The bonus damage is counted individually for each target. So, could be a big smack. Could be nothing because it's all dependent on if you lock them out. Depending on how hard she hits, you could actually probably put her with a lockout and just build her straight for damage, and you might be able to get a pretty good smack out of her. And then resets the cooldown of this champion's skills each time they kill an enemy occurs once per skill. That's kind of crazy. So anytime if you kill somebody, she gets a reskill on her skills on a 3-turn. So she could just kind of keep repeating her attacks, her skills, if you get on a good roll. And then you got to increase ally attack in all battles by 30%. 1443 attack, 99 speed, a little slow, but not too bad. Crit stats, a little bit of accuracy is nice to see. So first impression, it really just depends on multiplier for me on this one. If she doesn't have good multipliers, I think most people won't be able to use her. But for a lot of mid-game players, I think she could actually still be really good with the lockout, and she probably could still do decent damage, but we'll have to see with her multipliers. Overall, though, I think she could be good. We'll see how hard she can hit. Okay, so now we got to go to Demon Spawn. We got the Cheshire Cat. What are we thinking about this skin, guys? I won't lie. This is my favorite skin of them all. I think he looks really cool. Alright. So A1, attack one enemy if this champion is under veil, buff, attacks all enemies instead, and then he places perfect veil on himself with that skill. And damage is based on attack and speed, guys. So keep that in mind. It's pretty nice. Buffs himself with the A1, not bad. And if he is perfect veiled, which you could always pair him with a perfect veil if he needs it. It's an AoE, which is kind of cool, and 30% in books, so it might hit pretty hard. We'll see. A2, attack one enemy 3 times. Each hit will decrease the enemy's speed by 1%, up to 10%, and it's a 3-hitter, so you get 3% right away. This effect cannot work on bosses, though. That's kind of lame. Each hit will also increase this champion's speed by 1%, up to 10%. So you'll get a 3% boost every time you use this skill. So you need to use it 4 times to get it max, 3 times to get 1% off a max. So I mean, it's good for longer battles, but it's kind of a weird skill because it doesn't work on bosses, which is the longer battles. If it kills an enemy, places perfect veil buff on him, and with the ally with the lowest turn meter for 2 turns. So he buffs himself with perfect veil on this one, and possibly somebody else if he kills somebody. That's not bad. 3 turn cooldown, 20% books, attack and speed again. Attack all enemies before attacking, places perfect veil, and then increase attack for 2 turns. And then you get an extra turn if you kill an enemy. Also attack and speed. So if you get him smacking hard enough, he'll use this skill, get an extra turn, and then you could either go into the A1 for an AoE because you have perfect veil, or you could try to increase your speed and kill somebody else with this and then veil 2 champions. Interesting synergy. Just depends on the multipliers. I think if his multipliers are good, I think he's going to be fun to use. Passive. This is where he kind of gets crazy. If this champion is under a veil or perfect veil buff, turn meter fill effects are 30% more effective. Also, if this champion is under a veil or perfect veil buff, this champion attack will ignore 15% of the target's defense and inflict 15% more damage. That's pretty big, because you're ignoring 15% defense, and he's actually just doing 15% more raw damage. So he actually, I mean, if his multipliers are good, that's crazy. Whenever this champion is about to receive a hit that would drop their HP below 20%, blocks the incoming damage, and places block damage and perfect veil buff on this champion. That is massive. So that's like a Siegfried style move. But instead of a 2-turn block damage, you get 2-turn or a 1-turn block damage and perfect veil. Which I guess that doesn't really... Well, I guess that can still matter because then an AoE has to hit him to try to do anything. But that is huge, and that could be part of meta game, because that's what you're looking for in damage dealers, is a way for them to be able to survive themselves or do something extra. So this passive is really, really strong. So if his multipliers are good, I think he can be very, very good in arena. And then he probably could just be good in wave clearing and stuff as well. Looks very cool too. I think he's my most wanted. He's really cool. Okay, up next, we got Undead Hordes. And we got Knave of Hearts. Look at this skin, guys. The beating heart is really cool. That's a really cool skin. Shield's looking pretty good. We got hearts on the sword. It's a pretty cool skin. Okay, A1. Attack one enemy 2 times. Each has a 30% books to 50% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. So you're almost always going to get it. Each hit also heals the ally with the lowest HP by 3% of their max HP. So you're getting a 6% heal. And if it's of his max HP, guys, so if you build him with a lot of HP, a 6% heal can actually be pretty decent, and it's on an A1. A2. Attack all enemies has a 75% chance, which goes to 100, of stealing 2 random buffs from each target. That's pretty strong because it's stealing and not just removing. And then he also places a continuous heal, all in all allies except this champion, for 2 turns. And also unkillable and taunt on himself. So that's pretty interesting, but okay, I mean, we could see how that plays. I mean, that could be good. Swaps HP with the target enemy and places 100% heal reduction on that enemy for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be removed, transferred, or have its duration decreased by enemies. Then equalizes the HP levels of all allies. The HP levels of all allies will be brought up to the level of the ally with the highest HP. So that's like a Sinisha move. It's pretty much gonna be a full heal most of the time if you have somebody that's super high on health. And I believe he's all based off of HP. So if he has a lot of health, he's gonna bring up everybody's level, and then pretty much he might be the only one that's not full healed. And then he also puts increased defense. So that's a pretty strong move, I would think. So going to be a massive heal, a heal reduction on enemy that can't be taken off, which is nice for Amius and just in general, because then they can't recover right away. And then you're also getting increased defense. Okay. At the start of this champion's turn, fully restores this champion's destroyed max HP. When attacked, destroys the attacker's max HP by 20% of the damage received, up to 50%. So that could be interesting, because you're taunted, right? So you might be able to just naturally destroy enemies' max HP up to 50% pretty quick. If they just come try to kill him right away, which they can't because he's unkillable. So that might be interesting. You might be able to use him as a weird tank in arena on the lower end maybe. I don't know if he could be meta, but that's an interesting passive. Increase ally HP in all battles by 30%. Average. A little low on HP, low on speed kinda too. So he might be a little harder to build. But overall, I'd say probably a good carry for a lot of places. Probably like an A+ for me. Excuse me. And then we got Knight Revenant. Alrighty, so our fusion guy, and then the Queen of Hearts. So, Mad Hatter. What are we thinking, guys? Hand with the cauldron floating. Little pot down there, some keys. I want to say it's their best one, but it's still really good. Okay, A1. Attack one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 25% chance of stealing 1 random buff. It's another steal. Each hit also has a 100% chance of applying debuff spread, taking 1 random debuff from the target and placing it on all enemies under a hex debuff. That's actually pretty powerful, because you're going to spread 2 debuffs as long as they're under hex. It's interesting. Okay. A2. Attack all enemies. Has a 100% chance, when booked, for hex and weaken debuff for 2 turns on all enemies. That's a big skill. And then on top of that, the ally with the highest crit damage will team up and join the attack. The ally joining the attack will use their default skill, which is normal. The damage dealt by the ally joining the attack will increase by 10% per each debuff on the target. I think this is going to be a massive skill, and I really do think that we might see this in some endgame Hydra teams just because it's coming with so much. And then you're still getting a lot of damage out of your damage dealer with it. And it's on a 3-turn cooldown. So I think this is going to be one underrated skill that people aren't paying attention to. A3, increase the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn, then decreases the duration of all debuffs on all allies by 1 turn, and then a turn meter fill. So he's even boosting your team to make them faster on top of it, and that's on a 3-turn as well. He's a little book hungry though. Okay, his passive. Every 10 turns taken by allies, heals all allies by 20% of their max HP. That's kind of a lot of HP every 10 turns. Every 6 turns taken by enemies, places a true fear debuff on all enemies, which that's not going to happen in most cases. If there are multiple champions with this skill, only 1 activates. 20% every 10 turns. I mean, just think about how many times we're lapping the Hydra usually, guys. So not only is he bringing you Hex Weaken and giving you damage while doing it, turn meter boosting and keeping your buffs up and making sure you're not debuffed, making sure your debuffs stay on all of the enemies, and then healing you by a buttload of HP. I really think he's going to be pretty strong for Hydra. I think we're going to see him in some crazy teams. We'll see. I might be wrong, but I think it's a very, very good kit for Hydra. Almost, we got 23k health, 108 speed, so he's fast as well. And then a little bit of accuracy and a little bit of resistance. I think we need to keep an eye out for him. I think he is definitely, I believe he's going to be S tier for Hydra. He's going to be really, really strong. Alright, let's check out the Queen of Hearts, the last but not least. Let's check out the half and half face. That's pretty cool. Heart up top. Look at her axe. Off with your head, right guys? It's pretty cool. This is the one that's in the event dungeon. Okay, let's check out what she got. Attack all enemies. Places a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. Also fills turn meter of all allies by 5%. That's kind of a crazy A1. Let's be honest. Like, it's a guaranteed decreased defense, AoE, and a turn meter fill. That's pretty strong. Remove all buffs from all enemies, then places Death Brand, which is pretty much block revive if you kill them, but it could be with anybody. Debuff on the initial target, so it's only 1 target, for 2 turns. Also places True Field buff on all enemies for 1 turn. And then fills this champion's turn meter by 5% for each buff removed by this skill. So it's a pretty strong skill. The Death Brand, we'll see how well that plays into things. The True Fear's alright. And then filling her turn meter, I mean, it's just going to make her take her second turn pretty quick, I guess. Teams up with all allies to attack a single target before attacking places increase attack. Decreases the cooldown of this champion's off with their head skill by 2 turns if the target is killed. So you can kind of cycle into it pretty quick. Do this, get a bunch of turn meter back, do this. If you kill somebody, then you can do this again pretty quick. So it might be some cool synergy. We'll see how she does. We have to see how she plays. For every 10 buffs the enemy team receives, grants this champion an extra turn. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. So this could be very strong. You pair this with this. As long as you're like in pinpoint in the arena, it's very strong against like Sifis and Elvas and stuff if it's not protected, because then you could just come in, take off all their stuff and put True Fear. And if you're in pinpoint, you can't get polymorphed. If you're not, it's a polymorph magnet, which isn't fun, but could be interesting. I don't know if it'll play in high tiers, but it's interesting. Low health, pretty decent defense, alright attack, quick. I think she's gonna be pretty good, but I don't know if she's gonna see much super endgame. It's a 4-turn ally attack though. That's not terrible. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure on this one. We'll have to see how she plays, but I'm gonna guess A tier if I had to guess. But that is all of the champions from the Alice in the Wonderlands. What do you guys think of them? Please drop a comment and tell me your thoughts on all the champions and what you think my thoughts were. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.